Welcome back, everybody, to our second episode of She's Always On with Key and E. We have a ton of good topics today, a really good guest with an amazing story. But before we get into all that, I just want to bring up the fact that Tiffany Hayes pulled a Tom Brady on us.
My gosh, so crazy. I was like pretty shocked because she seemed 100% retired. I mean, so did Tom Brady, so I don't know.
Right. No, but I mean, when Las Vegas got rid of Deasia Fair, you knew something was coming.
Right. Which I was kind of sad they got rid of her because I thought she kind of fit into the system, but I don't know. You know best how this W system works. It's one day you think you're good, the next day you're not.
But Tiffany Hayes on that roster, they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, well, the crazy thing too is I was thinking about it is she was with the Connecticut Sun and Connecticut wanted her back.
Yeah.
She was a great 3-point shooter. She did a lot of things for them and they wanted her to come back. So when she retired, obviously you can't fight that. Like,
yeah,
hey, I'm retiring. So, but I guess by the same token, her coming back, like she's not going to join a fully stacked Connecticut team, you know? So, and I think it did fit for Las Vegas because they needed somebody extra with Deasia Fair not there anymore.
And with Chelsea Gray kind of in and out, she's, injured a little bit in the beginning of the season. They need point guard depth. She's a perfect fit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But anyway.
But to segue into what we really want to talk about, obviously we had to mention that, but I want to talk about way too early Rookie of the Year predictions. I'm going to let you start on this one.
Okay. I mean, you can't talk about Rookie of the Year without thinking of Caitlin Clark. I mean, she leads the rookies in points. She's the first player in league history with 150 points, 50 assists, and 10 blocks through the first 10 games. But you got to look at the turnovers too. She's the first rookie in the WNBA to have this many turnovers through their first 10 games. So I feel like you can't overlook that, especially with Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, Rakia Jackson, who nobody talks about. Those rookies are killing it as well. My front runner is Caitlin Clark. She had a 30-point game the other day. I think as the season will go on, she's going to adjust a lot better. She's not going to create as many turnovers. And even though everybody else has been giving her a run for her money, but she's impressed me throughout the first 10 games. And I love her fire. She got into it a little bit with Victoria Vivians the other day. Her fire, competitiveness, I love it.
I agree. I mean, like you said, Caitlin's at the forefront. I think one of the things that impressed me the most about her that's translated over to WNBA is her passing ability, right? I think some of the turnovers have been caused because her teammates weren't able to catch it or give her an extra person to pass to when she's getting doubles thrown at her, triples, people are blitzing. So I think, unfortunately, some of those turnovers do come from, I feel like as a point guard, everything's your fault. Like if the sky is green, it's your fault, So I think she's going to be just fine. Like everybody's like talking about her and obviously she's a hot topic, but she's going to be just fine. And then for me, honestly, I'm a guard girly, but I got to talk about Cameron Brink because she's leading the league in blocks per game at 3 blocks per game. And I think one of the hardest things, especially in the league, for it to transition and translate is defense, right? Because you're going against people who are bigger, stronger, faster than you. And Cameron Brink, yes, she has length on her, but she's ain't the biggest girl we've seen, right? Like she's a little bit skinny, So I just think her IQ on the defensive end, her ability to time blocks against really good players, I think it's second to none. And I don't know, I think she's definitely someone to be talking about as well as Angel Reese. Between those, I don't know, this rookie class is really good. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Angel Reese has such a knack for rebounding. Like she had 5 offensive rebounds per game, which is insane. And we know rebounding takes heart, hustle, and all of those things. So I think all in all, I'm gonna go with the post player. So I'm gonna go with Cameron Brink.
Okay. Do you think Cameron Brink could be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year?
Yes, actually, yes. That's a good question. I do. I'm gonna stamp it. I'm gonna say yes.
Okay. All right. Maybe we'll see Cameron Brink in in the talk for Defensive Player of the Year. But obviously, we have a ton of new fans talking about these rookies. But what they haven't seen was the rookies from past and what they were able to accomplish their first seasons. I mean, we've seen Candace Parker arguably had the best rookie season in WNBA history. She was MVP and Rookie of the Year the same year, averaging 9.5 rebounds a game. Her debut game, she scored 34 points. That's unheard of. It still hasn't been topped to this day. She had a 40-point game, dunked twice that season. Like,
Remember when Candace dunked, it was like the craziest thing ever.
I mean, it is crazy. She was playing like a guard and then coming down, dunking in transition. Like, that's insane.
One-handed dunk too. It wasn't like
Right.
I'm throwing it down with two hands.
Right.
Not that I would know which feels better or not, but
Right.
second.
No,
But
we've had some amazing rookies in the WNBA these past 26. Is this 26 years? 27?
yeah,
Yeah.
my math isn't mathing,
One of,
but
one of
I'm
them.
gonna
But
go with that.
yeah, but there's been amazing rookies.
Yes. And to speak of another rookie who I thought I've loved since the UConn days, and I used to be a huge UConn fan. I feel like just like everyone else in America when they were under 120 game plus winning streak or whatever it was,
Crazy.
Brianna Stewart. I think she's just a winner on all levels, and what she was able to do coming in as a rookie, having an immediate impact. And she's just such a versatile player. Like someone who could shoot the three, the mid range, fade away, use their footwork to finish around the rim. I think that's what makes her so hard to guard. And like she has 4 national championships. Like that is crazy. And
And I'm pretty sure she was the MVP of all four.
something,
Like that.
yeah, something. We could fact check that for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's who I'm gonna go with for that. I think for WNBA history, my favorite rookie has always been Brianna Stewart, and obviously to see what she did last season too, having those 40 plus points. And I'm excited to see how New York Liberty does because I do feel like they have a good chance to win. And it's been like what 20 years since they've made it to, or since they've won, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been so fun to hear the buzz around the WNBA, the buzz around these rookies, and just the excitement that it's bringing. I mean, we see on NBA Twitter, people are talking about the WNBA. There's memes now of people, and as
Yeah,
much as sometimes it can be mean and attacking to the players, people are talking about us, and
yeah.
that's it's growing the sport. The other day, we saw the WNBA player comps to NBA players. There's, there
Yes.
was a whole list of them, and they've been really dope. I mean, we can show it on the screen, but what were some
Yeah.
of them that you feel like hit the nail on the head? Which ones did you agree with?
Well, the first one I agree with is the Caitlin Clark and Steph Curry one. I think obviously just because of her distance and where she shoots it from, where she pulls it from is insane. One of the things though that makes me question, I don't think she moves the way Steph Curry moves without the ball.
Yeah,
Like
agree.
Steph Curry, you watched when he gets his shot off, all the work that goes into it is crazy. Like he's not just catching it off a flare screen. Like this man is running in circles, coming off of pins, coming off of
Yeah,
flares, back screens, all this type of stuff. He's constantly moving. And I think that's the one thing that's going to be important for Caitlin in these next following games as she grows and develops is to keep building and being able to move without the ball and not get stagnant. Because when
yeah.
she doesn't get her shot or kind of struggles to find rhythm offensively, I think she gets a little bit stuck.
I think that their coach could also help implement that for her, set more
Yeah,
staggers for her, pin downs, a little bit more movement in their offense
right.
can maybe help her so she's not so ball dominant the entire game.
I agree.
Yeah.
Who's somebody you think you agree with?
When I first looked up the tweet, what jumped out to me was Arike Donovan Mitchell. They
Mm,
play with the same rhythm, that same bounce. Uh,
yeah,
that the rhythm is just exactly the same. They get to their pull up, they get to the little fade, they get to
yeah.
the tween step back, like their
And
creativity.
they're clutch.
Yes, exactly. So when I first saw that list, that jumped off to the page for me. And then obviously Jewel Lloyd and Kobe. I mean, she's called the Gold Mamba for a reason. She gets, she gets to her pro post game that way, and their rhythm mirrors each other as well. Like she picks her spots in the same fashion he did, and
Yeah.
it was so cool to see that list. I think
That's a good comparison. I think that's a good one because the way both of them can go full speed and still change direction and get into their counter moves is kind of crazy. Like that takes it kind of reminds me of like Kyrie Irving in a way. Like they're both really good at change of pace, change of speed type of thing.
right.
But
You know which one kind of threw me off a little bit was Alyssa Thomas, Draymond Green.
yeah, no, that's crazy.
I get where they were coming from because
Yeah,
they play with the same aggression. AT, is that point forward.
yeah,
But I'm gonna go with my girl AT. I think she's 10 times more skilled offensively than Draymond
I
Green.
agree.
You
I
know,
agree.
she produces more on the offensive end, scoring wise.
Well,
And
she's also averaging like almost a triple double. Like homegirl is killing it. She's cooking.
exactly. So that one threw me off on the inaccurate side. But I thought
Yeah.
the list was super dope.
Yeah, I agree. And to go off that, teams that are struggling right now. I want to start off with the Mystics because they've been struggling so much, even watching their most recent game. Obviously, Elena Deladon decided to take the year off for I don't know what exactly the reasons were. I think it was just personal reasons. Natasha Cloud they traded, so now they have a different offensive system. But all their losses that they've had have been like a 5 point loss, a 2 point loss, 3 point loss. Like they've been close games. They're in there, but I think they're just not efficient. Like I
Yeah.
think you could play defense and get stops, but at the end of the day, if you're not producing offensively and being efficient on the offensive end, I think that's where you're going to struggle. And they don't really have that, especially with Shakira Austin being injured, Sykes on these minutes restrictions. So that's my 2 cents for the
Yeah.
team struggling right now.
I completely agree. And the team that I thought has been struggling is the Sparks, and they definitely need.
Your former team, they need you. Um,
No, no, my team is struggling. Like we need depth at the point guard spot. With
yeah,
Leja Clarendon's out, Lexi and Kia are scorers. They're not, facilitators. They score the ball. They put the ball in the basket. And
yeah,
with such a young team, they kind of need somebody to put them in their place, get the shot that they want at specific times in
right.
the shot clock and time and score, and just being that extension of Coach Miller on the court. And I just don't think they have that yet. Maybe eventually in upcoming drafts or with trades, they can hopefully get that. But I feel like that's what they're lacking right now.
Right. What I was just thinking about too, not to go back to just rookies and stuff,
Mhm.
Julie Van Loo, because we were talking about the Mystics, she's a
Yes.
guard from Belgium and it's her
Yes.
first year in the league, but I think she's adjusted so well. And
Yes.
not to jump back to that, but it just popped because you were talking about point guards, and I think what she's been doing is pretty impressive. Like, I think she's somebody to talk about too
Yeah.
because she's producing a lot and it's her first year. I know
Yeah.
she's a lot older, but yeah.
Yeah. But when you have that overseas experience, it does help
Oh,
a little
yeah.
bit transitioning into the W.
Right.
Even though it's your first year, you've played against that speed, that strength.
Yeah. That's such a
So
good
that
point
helps a lot.
for sure. Well, I think that's it for our segment, right? And then we have a special guest coming in the second half of this, so stay tuned.
Right. Okay.
Welcome back, everybody. The second part of the episode, we have a special guest, Sami Whitcomb. I'm super excited to have her on because she has such an amazing story. Went undrafted in 2010 and then got picked up by Seattle Storm in 2017. Just your journey and all that it took to get here. We're excited to have you on.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I always love chatting about basketball and WNBA hoops. So thanks for having me.
So, like Adona said, you went undrafted in 2010 and made your way back to the Storm in 2017. But in between that time, you were a video coordinator,
Yeah.
you played in other areas. Take us through that time, like your thoughts, how you kept yourself motivated, and when you thought maybe your playing career in the W was over. Yeah, just take us through that time.
Yeah, I mean, I graduated from UW in 2010 and really didn't have a lot of interest. So I wasn't really sure what it was going to look like. But I was lucky enough to get a training camp contract with Chicago. That was kind of at the time still when like everybody was playing overseas. And so they just needed people to fill out like camp spots basically until players were coming back. So it was a really, really cool experience. But I think that was a real like learning curve for me. I definitely saw the gaps in my game where I needed to improve. So when I was cut, it was still really like devastating, but it wasn't like a surprise. And then yeah, the agency that I was with at the time just basically they were like, we can't find you anything overseas. And my college had the video coordinator spot open up, and so they offered it to me. So I took that job just to kind of like have something. And I still like hooped. I joined a couple like men's leagues with one of my friends. I played like noon hoops whenever I could with like the coaches that were at UW, because there were a lot of people that like to hoop. And those were like the highlights of my days and weeks. The video coordinator job was like really exhausting, really like soul crushing, honestly. It was really hard. Like I learned a lot, but I just wasn't ready to not be playing anymore. So at the end of that year, I quit and I signed with like kind of a smaller agency and just said like, find me anything. Like I will go anywhere. I will play anywhere, whatever level I just want to play. And so I got really lucky and they found me something in Germany. And that sort of started my professional career. And I've just sort of bounced around from place to place after that. I played 2 years in Germany. I went to Slovakia. My career and trajectory of my career probably changed when I went to Australia. And it took me a while, but eventually I was able to play in the WNBL there. And that's sort of when the WNBA dream was like reignited for me, I would say. It was always there, but in terms of being like a reality, it probably wasn't until getting back to Australia. That league just had a lot of credibility. A lot of former WNBA players had been in it. So I felt like if I could do well there, I could kind of gain some momentum and some credibility. And then, yeah, I was really lucky that that's what happened. And the Seattle Storm were interested in signing me to a training camp contract. And that was sort of so surreal, because I remember my senior year being, going to games when Lauren Jackson, Sue Bird were there, hooping, and they won that year. And so it was just, it was really crazy.
That's crazy. Sorry. You mentioned
you're good.
That when you got cut, you knew what gaps you needed to fill. What were those gaps?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably still true for most players now, but I mean, the biggest thing is like physicality. They were just so strong. They knew how to use their strength. Obviously, like everyone's really athletic and quick, so all those things, but I would say it was that strength. And then the next probably gap was IQ. I feel like the women were so smart. They made decisions so quickly. Your sort of room for error was so tiny. Your margin for decision making, when to make the pass, when to shoot, all of that. Like you had no time to make those decisions.
Like 1 second decision making.
Yeah, you really had to be quick. And I just think, my feel for the game, all of that just wasn't up to scratch. But it was something that was so, I think, vital for me to figure out and to learn with that training camp experience. I think, you watch and you see, and I'm sure I probably imagined that that's where the gaps were, but feeling it and really understanding what it looked like and felt like, I think was really important for me.
Yeah.
And you talked about obviously all the stops you made to get to where you are. Kind of take us through how you're able to stay motivated during that time. I think it's so easy for somebody to be like, you know what, the WNBA isn't in my cards, as much as, everyone kind of dreams of that. It's a big dream and goal, but what were you telling yourself? Like, how did you keep this dream alive?
I mean, I was trying to really be present. I was trying to really be like, okay, it's not about getting to the WNBA tomorrow. It's about trying to get better every season, every day. So I was really into goal setting. I was really into like giving myself short-term, tangible goals, long-term ones. And so, I wrote stuff down every year, and I just wanted to every season get better.
Are you a journaler?
Sorry?
Do you like to journal?
Yes. Yeah. So journal, goal set, like I've got so many different random ones. Like I don't need so many, but I have so many. But I love writing that stuff down. I like, I'll write it on my mirror sometimes, just like the daily reminders of like why I'm doing it. And ultimately the WNBA was like this goal, right? It was of course something I wanted, but I think the larger thing for me that I was trying to remind myself of every day was like, I loved playing and I loved getting better and I loved feeling like I was getting the most out of myself. So that was the motivator. And I just felt like at some point, I really believed at some point, if I reached my, peak, or if I got to this place of like, this is the best version of myself, I believed that was going to be good enough for the WNBA. I just didn't know what that looked like, how long it would take. So I didn't have, like a timeline really, but I didn't care because, I was happy to play for however long. And in the end, I could live with not making the WNBA, but I couldn't live with the idea of like quitting or not trying and not giving my best to it and not feeling like, all right, I wasn't good enough, but like that was the best version of me, you know, like I wanted to reach that more than I wanted to play in the WNBA.
Yeah, that's awesome. For people who don't watch and haven't seen you play, you're one of the top 3-point shooters in the league.
Killer.
Yeah. How did you get to that? What does your pregame routine look like? Like, what kind of stuff do you do in the off season to, keep that 3-point shooting ability so consistent?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. One of the big reasons schools, when I was in high school, like that colleges said they weren't interested was because I wasn't a good 3-point shooter. So it
Wow.
was something that I had to develop. Yeah.
Let's unpack that.
Even when I went to UW, they told me freshman year that if I wanted to play more, I had to develop an outside shot. I was much more of a slasher, much more of a like I played like kind of like a 4 in high school because I was one of the taller players. So like I rebounded really well. I posted up some. I got to the rim. I wasn't like a non-shooter, but it wasn't really my thing as much. So my freshman year, I spent the whole year like just really trying to develop that. I was in the gym all the time. And then that summer going into my sophomore year, I lived in the gym and I was just like, I'm just going to try and develop this shot, get really comfortable. And then didn't happen overnight, but by the time I graduated, yeah, that was like my thing. I was definitely like probably labeled a shooter by the time I left UW. And then it just became about, well, how can I be more efficient? You know, teams are going to want to take away my shot. How can I shoot quicker? How can I get my feet under me faster and still, all of those things that, shooters think about. So that's how the sort of fast release, quick release has developed over the years. And in terms of what I do in season, pregame, all of that, it sort of fluctuates year to year. As I've gotten older and just more comfortable in my shooting abilities. Definitely like there's not really an off season because I play year round. So I just try to maintain, how many shots I'm getting in a day or in a week and just try to stay really consistent with that so that I just am feeling really good. So I'm much more about, quality these days than quantity, but I was definitely a quality person.
Like we all used to probably think like that.
Throughout
100 shots up.
100%. So I've definitely had those years, and I think they are really important to my development and to where I'm at. Like I'm a big, like I get a lot of confidence from my preparation. So that's been a big part of it for me. But as I've gotten older and as I'm continuing to play year round, I've definitely tried to really hone in on the quality more than anything.
And I'm sure as a shooter, you've probably been through some shooting slumps. How do you mentally get through that or, not lose confidence in your shooting while you're going through that?
Yeah, because I could have used this advice back in my
Same.
days.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're right. Like throughout my career, I've definitely hit times where it's just not falling. It's just not dropping. And you're like, man, I don't know what to do. And you try to do more and you try to get in the gym and you think, oh, I'll shoot my way out of this. And then that doesn't work. So then you're like, all right, I'll do less. Like I won't do anything. I won't stress about it. But then maybe that doesn't work either. So you're just trying to find that balance. Because as a shooter, you just need that one game to get out of it. Or you need that one, little stretch to get out of it where you see 1 or 2 drop and you're like, oh, I'm back. So I think the biggest thing for me has always been to just, and it's so easy to say and so much harder to do, to not stress about it because normally with shooters, it does become a mental thing. So I think the less you can worry about it and be up here in your head and just trust your shooting, trust your preparation. But for me, yeah, it always comes back to that. So I just make sure that I'm staying in the gym, getting a good feel. So long as I'm getting my shots and my reps up, ultimately I know that the ball is going to drop again. But I think, yeah, it's trying to live in a really good space mentally so that I'm not, stressing too much about it. I don't want to put too much pressure on any one shot. But yeah, I mean, even this past year in Australia, I probably had one of my like worst shooting seasons like overall. But I feel really good now, and coming into this season, I feel like I'm in a really good headspace with all of it. So yeah, it's just it's an ebb and flow with it, and you just have to sort of ride those waves sometimes.
For sure.
As somebody who's been through training camp where you're not, guaranteed a spot.
Yeah.
How do you, because obviously you say like you can't put too much pressure on that one shot. That's how it feels during training camp at a lot of times because it's like you have 2 weeks to prove yourself. And if you don't make shots, you turn over the ball, whatever, how do you keep your head so stress-free, level-headed during that time?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because that first training camp when I came to play for Seattle, they kind of made it sound like they were really confident in me and they felt like there was a spot for me and space for me. But, it was a training camp contract. I needed to prove myself and all that. I was like a 28-year-old rookie. So I think they really needed to see that what I was doing elsewhere, I could do for them in this league at this level. And yeah, I was very stressed going into that, like super excited, but very stressed. I think particularly at that point, like I very much was like just a shooter in terms of, for a WNBA team. So I knew shot making was going to be critical. And I was, working my butt off. It was like, we were like 3 or 4 days into camp, maybe 3 days in, I can't remember. And I like hadn't made a shot. It was like, I was not making shots, but I was doing so many other, I was working so hard and I was doing all these other things, but I just couldn't make a shot. And I remember Jenny Buchek was the coach and she like pulled me aside kind of and was just like, you're playing yourself off the team basically right now. Like she was like, you want it. Yeah. Well, she was just trying to say like, we know you want it. We can see you want it. You're working so hard, but like you can want something too much almost. Like, she's like, you just need to relax. Like just believe in yourself. Just like take a deep breath. Like you're just going a million miles an hour and you just need to like relax. But all I heard was you're playing yourself off the team. So I was like, oh my God. So I remember I called.
That is hard not to hear anything else.
I called my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, but she's my partner then. And I called her and just said, like, basically, I was like, this is my F it moment. I was like, can't do any worse. Can't be, like, I've already reached this point of like, they're thinking I'm not right for this, whatever. I haven't made a shot. So I was like, F it. I'm just going to try and enjoy this experience, like, not stress too much. And of course, I reached that moment and finally made shots that day, like played a lot better, just a lot easier, a lot less stressed. So I think sometimes, yeah, you have to get to those moments of like, it just, yes, of course you want to make shots. Of course you want to be great, all of those things. But at the end of the day, like, you want to just enjoy it as well. You want to have fun. I think you can't make it any bigger than it is. It's a game that we love to play. And when we make it this huge, big thing and it's no longer enjoyable, it's like, well, why are we doing it anyway? So I think trying to get back to that point of just like have fun. And that's when I'm living kind of in that space a little bit more. I still want to make shots. I'm still frustrated when I miss shots, but I think I make more in that space than I miss, and I'm enjoying playing more. So it's like you live with whatever the result is.
I like that. And just to kind of tag on to, you've obviously played a lot of different roles throughout your career, and there's times as players, even players now, when you have a short leash, a long leash.
Yeah.
How did you? What kind of your advice for people who have had a short leash? How do you work through that and not put so much pressure on? I got to be great in this one chance I get, this one opportunity, because this one opportunity could get me more playing time. Kind of, how did you work through that and the mindset you had?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard. It's hard when you're only going to get a couple minutes here and there, and it might be when you're either down 20 or up 20, to still be impactful, to still really care and to be a spark and to just make the most of that time. And yeah, I think I just tried to not think about that as much, and I just tried to think about what the team needed, what my teammates needed, what my role was. I think roles are so important in the WNBA in particular, and that's how you make a team. Like you have to be really great at your role, and even if it's the 11th man. And I think for me, when I was sort of in that last position, that last person off the bench, it was, well, I'm gonna make sure that they know that like I take that role very seriously. So if I was getting 2 minutes and it was in, maybe a 20-point lead or you're down to whatever it was, I was still going to come in and work my butt off. And I was going to give everything in those 2 minutes. And I was going to prepare like I was, 6 man off the bench. And I was going to do everything, I think just being really professional still, and holding yourself to a standard no matter what it is, because that was my traditional role those first few years. But there were times when I had to play 20 minutes. There were times when I had to play randomly, 15 minutes, whether it was like someone was sick, injured. There were a few games where it was a blowout early and we had maybe a back-to-back or whatever it was. And so it was like they just put the bench in and you get to play a lot. And if you're not ready for that moment and you don't make the most of that moment, it can sort of dictate the next, week of games or the rest of the season. Maybe someone else now is going to get that opportunity instead. So I think it's really just focusing day to day, game to game on what your role is and being really, really professional and being prepared for that. And all I can say is, like, the way this league goes, you're going to get an opportunity. Like, you will get a chance. You just have to be ready for when that moment comes, because the way it's so fluid, roles change constantly throughout the season, and there's constantly opportunities because the schedule's so hectic, and there's always going to be injuries. You never want those, but sometimes those come up, or someone might get in foul trouble, or it's just game management and resting bodies because of the schedule too. So I just think you'd never want to not be prepared for your moment.
Stay ready.
Yeah, always.
So you're a mom of 2.
Yes.
What's the best part of being a mom while being an athlete?
Well, I think it's getting to for me, I love basketball, but getting to see it through my son's eyes, and I have a 5-month-old, so not really through his eyes yet. But Nash is 3.5, and getting to experience the joy through his eyes, like seeing him love seeing me playing and cheering for me, and then seeing him, meet my teammates and fall in love with that sort of side of it. He wants to run around on the court and shoot afterwards, and remembering sort of just the purity of why we all start playing and why we love it. Him getting so excited. Like, we have this video of when I got to start for a little bit in Seattle last year, and they call the starters out and you run out, and all the starters ran past and gave Nash a high five, and then I run out and I give him a little kiss, and as I run past, he turns and he says that's my mommy, and
Oh,
it's the cutest thing. It is so gorgeous, but you can just see
so cute.
yeah, he's 3, 2.5, whatever he was, and he has so much pride and joy and excitement. So I think getting to share that kind of stuff with him, which I never thought I'd get to, kind of have those moments as a mom. I thought it would be after my career, or, maybe not even during a WNBA career, So I think getting to share that kind of stuff, and then knowing that one day, hopefully, he'll be inspired to dream big as well, because, I did. And I think just all of that has been really, really beautiful.
You balance both. I know it's a crazy time during the season, and I'm always thinking about, I'm how do you, or people who do want to become a mom but are afraid to start a family because they want to be fully invested as a mother or as a player, how do you balance both?
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, I think, is this idea that if you are a mom, you can't then give 100% to sport, or you can't give 100% to being a mom, and you're sort of in conflict the whole time trying to balance it. And I mean, for me, it was really difficult initially because I was so all about basketball and giving everything to that, and it's been an adjustment for sure, but it's been, I think, really great for me in my game, because it has given me that balance. And it's definitely, when I'm away from the game, I'm just trying to be where my feet are. That's the constant reminder for me. When I'm with my family, I'm there. I'm not thinking about basketball, which has actually been a really, really great thing for me, to just mentally be able to take that break. And then when I'm in basketball mode, I'm with my team, I'm present and I'm there, and I feel like I have more to give, because I'm not so drained from constantly thinking about basketball and overthinking and analyzing and all of that. I can really be there and give everything that I have. So I think you definitely can still give 100% to both. It might not feel that way, but you can. But I think the biggest thing and the best thing for me in all of it has been my wife. I wouldn't be able to do it without her and the support that she provides, and she's sort of the glue that holds, our family together. It'd be impossible without her and without the compromises and sacrifices that she makes for us. So I'm super blessed that she's, so on board with supporting my career. She's the best mom, so they're very lucky to have her. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely challenging, of course, but it is possible, and you see more and more of these incredible women doing it. So yeah, it's a really exciting time, I think, to be a part of the league and women's sport in general, because there are so many amazing moms to look up to.
I want to, sorry, backtrack to your shooting. What do you prefer, shooting off the bounce or hopping into your shot?
Yeah, you
I
do
mean,
both.
step 1, 2 into your shot or hopping into your shot?
Yeah, I think I am more of a 1-2. I'm
Okay.
more of a 1-2. I definitely, there are times when I hop, but I think like if right now you said I need you to make like 10 threes,
Yeah.
you can hop or you can 1-2. I would 1-2.
Yeah. Do you feel
Yeah.
like it's more efficient that way, in it quicker that way for you?
I don't know if I probably would be quicker if I hopped, honestly, because I can hop pretty quickly into it. So that's like, those are the times if it does need to be quick, like out of a handoff and stuff, I might hop just to get it off even quicker. The 1-2 for me, I think, provides a little bit more balance and a little bit more like power, I think. So I
Yeah.
think I can just be a little bit better with that. But when I'm not thinking and I'm not conscious and I hop, I think when I look back, I think it has more to do with the quickness then, honestly.
Yeah. And with Seattle, you come off a lot of dribble handoffs,
Yeah.
and you do such a good job of shooting off the bounce, going full speed, and being on balance. Do
Yeah.
you practice full speed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do a lot of, like I said, because I try to not spend as much time in the gym doing it. Like I'm not shooting, 1,000 shots a day. I try to get really good quality reps in. So I am trying to go at game speed a lot of times when I do them, even if it's, 10 reps of handoffs on the right, handoffs on the left, or whatever it is. I try to get really good quality ones in that are realistic. And yeah, there are a lot of times where you're doing it and you're sprinting, it might be like you're sprinting from one side coming off stagger screens and you're going full pace to get a little bit of separation from your defender, and then you have to stop and shoot it. So yeah, so I definitely practice those. And I'm actually, I probably prefer doing shots like that, honestly, sometimes more than just like the wide open catch and shoot one. Those can sometimes be a little bit harder to make, honestly.
Yeah, that's real. That's so real.
Sometimes a wide open three, I'm like, don't give it to me. Don't.
Yeah, honestly, I'll wait for the contest.
Right.
Wide open transition layup, I don't want it. I'm passing it off to my teammate.
Don't need that kind of pressure in my life.
To transition into, you played with so many greats. Obviously, Sue Bird being one of them, and you talked about how you used to watch her. What is something that you've learned from her, playing with her, and just take through that whole time having her?
Yeah, I mean, Sue's the GOAT, man. She is definitely like top 2 in terms of teammates probably ever. And I think there's so much that I learned from her and watching her play. She was such a player coach. She just ran everything for us in terms of offense, but just what she was so great at, and probably why someone like me really appreciates her as well, was she knew what everyone was good at, and she knew how to get that from them. She knew how to incorporate them. So I might have played 3 minutes that game, but if I got on the court and I was with her, she was running like the 1 or 2 sets that sort of utilized me. Even if it wasn't for me to get a shot, it utilized me as maybe where the defender was going to have to decide if they left me and helped or not. So I might be that single side tag, and she knew, well, people aren't going to leave Sami, so then it might free up Stewie, or they're not going to leave. They're going to go and help Stewie, and we're going to get our shooter a look. Like, she was just so good at making sure that everybody felt valued, and that you were put in positions to be successful with whatever it was. And, the reason that we won those championships when we did, I really feel like, was because all 11 or 12 of us, whatever we had that year, were really valued, and our roles were so important, and we knew them. And, we had someone like Sue, this superstar, that made sure we knew how important we were, no matter what we were doing. And I've learned so much from that. Her leadership skills, I mean, I'd have a million stories, I'm sure, that I probably can't think of now. I've not been around a better leader than her as well. She knew when to sort of fire us up and get after us. She knew when to just, be really sort of calm and poised for us and make sure that we were, not getting too high or too low. And that was within a game, after a game, on a road trip, whatever it was. She was just I've not been around a more a more intelligent player, I don't think.
I feel like when your best player is also one of your best leader on the team,
Yeah.
I think you're bound to be successful because, like you've mentioned, everybody's role is so important. Whether you
Yeah.
play 40 minutes or 0 minutes, and having kind of the GOAT make you feel seen, valued, and all
Yeah.
of those things, you're bound to have a successful team, which obviously you guys did. So,
Yeah, I think it was just, and I know she wouldn't have just done it for me. I know it would have been for everybody. But yeah, you're right. Like when you feel seen and I don't know, it's just sort of valued, yeah, like I said, by someone like Sue, it reignites you and it makes you want to continue to get in the gym and make sure you are ready for those 2 minutes, for those 3 minutes, whatever it is. Like she really knew how to get the best out of everybody.
Do you feel like that skill that she has of knowing when to get somebody a shot, who to go to on the team, like, do you think that can be acquired? Or do you feel like that's just something that these great players have, like LeBron, Sue, like they just know how to, do you think that can be studied and
I
acquired?
think it can. I think it can. I think to do it at the level that those ones do it at, I think there is some of that is innate, some of that is God, just God given. But I think, yeah, you can absolutely, I think, try to, study them, listen, because I feel like I learned so much and I'm a much more, like when I talked about early on in my career, the IQ part just being so, like, I feel like I've grown so much in that from watching her and listening to her and the way she would break down film and the way she would break down reads and stuff. I've learned so much from her. I'm nowhere near what she is, but in terms of learning and closing that gap, I feel like a lot of that I got just from studying her. So you definitely can, but like I just don't think anybody reaches her level of it or the level of players like her by just studying film and doing it. Like I think some of that really is just, I mean, she's just special. She's just so special.
are you still, obviously up to this point in your career, watching a lot of film and breaking yourself down? I know sometimes watching oneself sucks, especially after all these years.
Yes.
Is that something you're still working on every time?
Yeah, it's super humbling, but it has helped me a lot. Like, honestly, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't able to take criticism, if I wasn't able to, be accountable to myself as well and to watch it sort of really honestly and say, like, that's not good enough or whatever. Or, on the other side of it, say, look, those are great shots they didn't drop, but, you keep taking them. So yeah, I try and watch all the games. If I can't watch that, from start to finish wholly, I might just watch my minutes just to get, a dose of like, okay, this is where, I need to improve game to game. It might be, when you're playing a team for the second time, you're just watching your errors defensively, or maybe the reads you didn't make that you need to be ready to make this time. Maybe they trapped you and you didn't handle it well, or, whatever it is. So always watching film still. I think that's part of why I still play. I am still really eager to get better and find ways to improve year to year. And film is definitely really helpful for that. I think there's very few things, that I think can really help just game to game than watching film.
Kiana, do you have any other questions?
Well, I thought this was great.
Needs Sami go, because we've taken up your time.
I know we
No,
have.
Thank you guys.
No, I thought this was great. I mean, one more question, maybe. I feel like, sorry. You guys have such amazing stories, and media doesn't share everyone's story. Like, does that frustrate you a little bit? Because I feel like the same couple people are talked about, but your story is amazing, along with so many other women in the WNBA. And
yeah. I mean, it's not frustrating in the sense that, like, I think I love any talk about any player in the WNBA, and I can 100% appreciate, talking about certain players more than others because they're so fantastic and remarkable. But I think it would be great if there was more storytelling about, some of the people who have struggled more along the way. Some of the people who, haven't been an overnight, I don't want to say overnight success, because I know everybody works incredibly hard. I totally appreciate that even the greats like Asia Wilson work their ass off. Like I know that is true. So they definitely deserve, being talked about so much. But you're right. There's so many other really fantastic stories that I think it would generate a lot of interest and support from people who might not otherwise be, because they can maybe relate to some of the struggles. Maybe they find a lot of inspiration from those ones, as well as from following someone as incredible as Asia, as incredible as Stewie, as incredible as Caitlin is coming into the league and everything that she's bringing. I think a balance would be awesome, but at the same time, I'm just happy to be a part of the league.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's times like, especially in my career, like I tore my knee. I'm looking up interviews with people that I knew for their knee.
Who's done that? Who's come back?
And just like help me push through those battles, but you don't hear about any of it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would be great to have, because of how competitive the league is now, because there are so few spots. Obviously, expansion's coming, all of that. That's great. That's going to include, more opportunities for players. It is really hard to be in this league, to play in this league. So I think more stories about players who maybe weren't drafted, or who were drafted and cut and had to go and play for X number of years and really develop their game, I think would be awesome. And I think it would help the fans appreciate and understand how tough this league is, how good this league is, and how, yes, these rookies are incredible, but like, look at someone like Kelsey Plum, who was a #1 draft pick, and it took her a few years of grinding before, and now she's this all-star, this incredible player. And I think people forget sometimes where some of these players came from. Even a Jackie Young, she was always great. They've all always been great, but they're MVP type players now because of the grind that they've been willing to put in, because this league is so tough, because there are such incredible athletes in this league. So I think that would be just a nice way to like frame some of the storytelling of this league too, to really I think help people understand how tough the WNBA is.
Yeah. Well,
I am curious one thing, Sami, because you talked about just obviously the perseverance, which I love your story so much, because people don't realize how hard it is to get to the level where you're at. And kind of, who was your mentor or somebody you use as a soundboard, or talk to them? Because I look back like on my college career, and I tore my ACL 3 times. I was initially a walk-on, and I had a tough journey. So like Kiana said, I have always kind of looked up to other people who went through this, who did this, who was that one person that kind of kept you up and make sure you keep your head up?
I mean, honestly, at the time, I didn't know anyone that was going through what I was going through. I knew people that were playing overseas, of course. I met a lot of amazing teammates. None of them that I had met at the time were chasing WNBA still, really. None of them had those aspirations. They were very content to play overseas, and that was kind of it. So for me, honestly, it was a lot of internal. And I would say someone, though, that I constantly, who knew my goals, though, and that I was constantly talking to, was actually like a family friend that he was an assistant coach for me in high school as well. And him and his wife they're like family to me. He was probably someone that I looked to for support, for encouragement. He would watch my games, give me feedback. Still comes to my games now that I'm in the WNBA. So I think probably someone like him would be someone that I would say. But to your point, like at the time, I didn't know a lot of stories about, because this would have been 8 years ago. I didn't know a lot of people that were experiencing what I was experiencing, that I could really use as like, hey, how did you get to this point? How did you push through this? Whereas now I feel like there's so many incredible stories of 30-year-old rookies, or people who have been injured and out of the game and have fought back and have made a team. There's so many stories. So I'm constantly inspired by all of them now. But yeah, back then I don't know that I had somebody that I could call. So it's really nice to see that there is such a diverse group of people in the WNBA.
Were you ever afraid to admit, like, hey, I want to play in the WNBA? Like, I think sometimes it's scary to say, this is what I want to do. Like, this is my big goal or dream. And it's scary to say that aloud to other people who are probably in the same boat as you, and you're still running through that time of overseas period. Was that something you were afraid to voice? I mean, I was initially, because
it's embarrassing when you're like, I know I'm not good enough right now, but like, this is what I want. And you don't want people to judge you or laugh at you, right? And be like, you want to play in the WNBA? But I think that's probably when everything changed for me. I think the moment that I was no longer afraid to admit that that's what I was chasing, and that I wasn't afraid to fail and to not achieve it. So that's where I wrote it on my I had like a mirror for my closet. It was on my, so anytime anybody came into my room, they saw that that's what I was trying to do.
It was understood.
Yeah, I wasn't afraid to say I wanted it, and I wasn't afraid to give everything I had and to come up short. Like I just think it's the only way you get it. It's the only way. You cannot be afraid to dream big. You can't be afraid to say it out loud, because if you're unwilling to say that, if you're unwilling to admit it, I just think you're not going to be doing everything you can to get that. You're going to be using excuses along the way to say, oh, well, I didn't really want it. It was just like, if I got there or whatever. Yeah, if you're afraid to fail or afraid to do that, I just think you're not going to get it. So yeah, that's probably when things really changed for me.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. Obviously, this is why we create this platform, to share you guys' stories and just to give other people opportunities to be inspired by people like you. So we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks guys. This was great. It's always fun to chat about the league and basketball, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you guys.